Okay. I'm Andrea Ferguson. Please call me Andy. I'm the President and UX Director for AndiSites. We are a WordPress design and development shop in Chapel Hill. And hey, welcome. Come on in. We started a little early. It's okay. I'm going to let these folks get in and visit. Oh no, we ran somebody off. It's okay. WordPress is easy and fun. We promise. All right. All right. So I'm being told I need to either speak up or how's that? Even better? A little too much? A little overwhelming, isn't it? No? Okay. All right. Cool. So we are here today to talk about user-friendly design tweaks for your WordPress website. Here's the question everybody asks. Who here has a WordPress website? All right. So do you know what I mean when I'm talking about user-friendliness? User-friendliness gets interchanged with usability and UX and UI and all of this stuff. But basically what user-friendliness is and why you care is there are a lot of websites out there. People are very busy. People get frustrated easily on the web. You want to be sure that your website is user-friendly. So people go to it, they know what to do right away, they have some kind of positive emotional experience, and that's kind of what we're going for. Above all, you want it to be intuitive. You don't want people to have to kind of figure out, where they're supposed to go, what they're supposed to click. Why does this look one way and this heading looks a different way? You want to remove as much of that friction as you possibly can. The sort of one of the Bibles is "Don't make me think," and this is sort of the first rule in user friendliness and website usability. Are y'all familiar with this book? You read it? If you have not read it, it is in itself a very user-friendly book. Lots of illustrations, very short. You can get through the whole thing, in a couple of hours if you read every word and look at everything. But yeah, if you get nothing else out of this, go get Don't Make Me Think, a common sense approach to web usability. He has an updated version that recently came out, and he also wrote a book called Rocket Surgery Made Easy. Which is a list of steps that you can take to find usability problems in your own website. But his whole thing is don't make me think. I'm busy, don't make me think. I just want to go to a website. I don't want to have to think about anything. I don't want to have to suss anything out. Give me as many clues as you possibly can. Make your users happy, they like you better, they buy more stuff, they get in touch with you more, all that. Okay. So we're going to assume for today that you already have a website and you don't really have the time, money, or interest in investing in an entire redesign, but you just want to make some tweaks to make it more user-friendly. So I'm going to focus on 3 easy types of tweaks that you can make yourself. Color tweaks, call to action tweaks, and that's like buttons, links, and font tweaks. Also known as typography if you like long words. So I hate doing a lot of things that waste my time, maybe. Nothing is less interesting to me than, for example, watching paint dry. So we're going to use this website as our example today. The whole point is just to remind you that it doesn't matter what your content is. It doesn't matter if you have a website that has a zillion pages or only one page. It doesn't matter. These tweaks will apply to any website. Okay, so here we have our demo website, how to watch paint dry. We've got 3 categories of content here: tools and equipment, the proper procedure, what to wear. But what I want to do, if this is my business, I really want people to get the guide. I want people to download this ebook, because every time I get somebody to download the ebook, I get a bonus from my boss, let's say. So that's going to be our primary thing that we care about. However, everything is interesting, and we don't want to, we don't want people to just see, oh my gosh, this is how to watch paint dry, I'm getting out of here. So that, the get the guide, is going to be the thing that we're going to care the most about. All right, so first off, color tweaks. Color is very emotional. You can make people feel certain ways with different colors. But above all, thanks to our big, beautiful monitors and technology and everything, we can have vibrant, beautiful color on the web now. So you want to take advantage of that as much as you can. Color attracts. I'm a bird nerd. Anybody else a bird nerd? Yay, yay, my peeps. Okay. See what I did there? Okay, so in the bird world, the males get all the beautiful plumage and the pretty colors and all of that kind of thing. That's because their sole job, really, is to attract the ladies so that they can procreate and make sure that the species, survives. The ladies, on the other hand, their job is to sit on the eggs and take care of the babies and all of that. So as a result, they need to be not noticeable so that they can be more protected. But color attracts. Ladybirds can see color. They care about these things. So that's why in the bird world you see all this beautiful, colorful plumage. I mentioned that color has emotion. We all know that. You may have seen this graphic before. Red is excitement, green is peaceful. You see a lot of blue in logos because that's kind of the color of trust. There are other reasons why people use blue. Facebook is blue because its founder is colorblind, and that was the only color he could really see. So there are also other reasons why people use color as well. So I'm not going to get too deep into this whole concept because you intuitively know these things anyway, but I just want to mention that it does kind of matter. So when you are thinking about adding color to your website, think about the emotions that different colors conjure. I'll also mention we're going through a lot of stuff, but these slides will be online after the presentation, so don't stress over getting everything down. Just start with one color. Adding color to your website can get really overwhelming because you don't even know where to start. But just start with one color. And this one color should ideally be used for those calls to action, those buttons, those links, those things that you want people to see right away. You want to be consistent with that one color so that every time somebody sees that color on your website, it means do something. This is why you don't want text links to be one color and buttons to be another. Anything that is clickable, that does something, research has shown that it will help your users most if you are very consistent with what that color is. So how do you come up with the one color? Well, the first place to start is your logo. If you have a color in your logo, start there. Because then you know that the logo is going to be at the top and everything will kind of look good together. Unfortunately, our logo doesn't give us a lot to work with. You can also see that it's nice and big and bold. They use the Make My Logo Bigger cream. Are you familiar with that website? And we know that clients always want the logo to be bigger. It's the first thing you hear. So this logo opted to be really big, but not to have any color. Okay, well, the good news is now the sky's the limit. So the next place I would go to look for color is the imagery on your website. So this website has some pretty good images. They've got color. There's a variety. So if we know that these are the images that you have on your website, I'd start there to try to figure out what your one main color is going to be. So there's nothing scientific about this part. It's just like, what do you see first? Where does your eye land? So I tend to kind of focus on this area. I like a powder blue tuxedo. Who doesn't? But that might not be a strong enough color for my calls to action. So when I look at that, I see the orange. All right, so now we've got somewhere to go. We're starting. We've got a color that's going to kind of be our sexy color on the website. So the thing is, do you know what I mean when I say web accessibility? You're all hearing about it a lot. Okay, so and in some situations it's required. Your website must be accessible to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act and all that stuff. So what accessible colors mean is it's colors that, typically colors that have high contrast against their background so that people can discern them easily. So there's this website, which we'll see if I can load. What do you know? I can. Okay, so colorsafe.co is a really great website when you're choosing colors. You can just click Get Started. You can stick with the default options. That's perfectly fine. Click Generate Color Palette, and it's gonna show you little tiles of all the accessible colors. All right, so we know that we want. Show me all the oranges. So all of these are accessible. I really like this one because it's kind of a red-orange. Studies have shown that red, and some people get afraid of red on their website. They're like, people are going to think I'm yelling, or red means stop, or whatever. So what we know is that red is the first color that babies see. And we know that when people have brain injuries and they lose their ability to see color, the first color they see, again, as they're recovering, is red. So red does have an emotional pull and appeal to us. So I'm going to go with this kind of red-orange here. And you can see it'll give me the hex number so I can do my whole thing. All right, now, let's see what happens if I do this. Miracle. Okay. So now I have that color. So let's return back to our original website that we're dealing with. Nice black and white website. Picked my color. And let's apply this principle. So now I've made the links, the text links, which you probably didn't even know were there. I've made them, and I've made the button that orange. So we're already improving it. We're already making it user-friendly because we're showing people where to look. And we're teaching them every time you see orange, that you can do something. Now we did put a helpful click me with the thumbs up, but people don't read initially when they first see a website. They just feel. So that orange is really going to help us. From here, you can go into creating an entire color palette. I'm just going to list these tools. Simple ones, coolers.co, you can enter a hex number, and then you just keep tapping the space bar, and it will come up with palettes for you. Find one you like and apply it to your website. Canva.com is really cool too because you can upload an image. You know, I could have uploaded that image of the paint cans, for example, and it will automatically create a palette for you. That's really cool too. If you are at the advanced level, color.adobe.com, which used to be called Cooler, right, Alex? K-U-L-E-R. It's way over my head, but Alex, our director of digital, loves this thing. And you can create palettes, you can put different rules in, you know, tertiary, blah, 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 all this stuff. And you can create palettes that way too. Corinne, our creation director, she and I just like to tap the space bar and come up with good stuff. And then Alex fixes it. All right, second thing. Call to action tweaks. So calls to action are those things that just make you want to do something. You just want to do something. Can't help yourself. So for our website, it's download that ebook. We want to download that ebook. So I have in mind a call to action that is unfailingly effective no matter what. It's not a website call to action. Can anyone guess, based on this, what that call to action is? Hot now. I cannot drive past this sign. I don't care if I have a bone sticking out and I'm on my way to the hospital. I cannot drive past this sign. It is so popular and important that if you go to the Krispy Kreme website and do like the store locator, it will not only tell you what stores are in your area, it will show you what stores currently have this sign on. So you can drive out of your way to get the hot donuts. This is what we want to do with our website. We want to have the calls to action on there be so enticing that people can't help but click. All right, so this is where we are right now. Click me. That's the call to action that we're going to talk about. Why size matters. Get your head out of the gutter. These are fingers. So think about on your phone, and none of us have pencil-shaped fingers, so we really need to be able to hit those buttons. Apple and Google and all these folks have these sort of guidelines for how big a touch target should be. Turns out they're not big enough. MIT did a very comprehensive, exhaustive study on finger size. And what they discovered is that it's actually 57 pixels is your minimum square for a finger touch target. These quotes are from Smashing Magazine. They took this and sort of made it a real world thing. And if you just Google like touch targets Smashing Magazine, you'll get this information. Thumbs are bigger than fingers. Why do we care? Because sometimes people are doing something with one hand and they're cruising your website with the other. So it's helpful if thumbs can touch your buttons as well. Don't stress too much over measuring the button size. The point is make them bigger than you think they need to be. Older people will appreciate that because we can't see, basically. Younger people will also appreciate it because it's just helpful, and they're on their phones all the time, kind of thing. So be sure that you make your buttons big. So here are just 4 rules for an easy-to-click call to action. Make it big, make it bright, give it room, which means don't squish it up next to a bunch of other stuff. Just give it a little white space around it. And make it obvious. Make it obvious that it is a button. There are a lot of ways to do this, which we'll talk about. But you want to make it obvious that it is a button, and you also want to make it obvious what it's going to do when you click that button. So the label of it is also important. So here we are with our website again. We apply these principles. Small change, but it made a big difference. Okay, it's big. Much bigger. It's bright. We did that already. It has a lot of white space around it. We did that already. But we changed it from click me to download ebook. So now I know what's going to happen when I click that button. This is really helpful. And a lot of times when you get like form plugins out of the box and the button says submit or whatever, if you can change that text to something like, I don't know, anything other than submit. Send, get in touch, something. Not that submit is bad, but if you have the opportunity to label a button with exactly what's going to happen, send my form, whatever, that will help your users as well. Again, don't make me think. What's going to happen when I do this? I'm going to download the ebook. Great, thank you. Last one is font tweaks. Typography tweaks. So here are just four things to think about. One is choose 2 fonts. One for your headings, one for your body. 2 fonts. It's really tempting to start putting a whole bunch of fonts on your website. Now, I'm not talking about font weights. If you within the same font family, it's okay to do bold and not bold and that kind of thing. But 2 fonts. That's past that our brains start to kind of go. So 2 fonts. Make the body text big enough for older eyes and smaller screens. You know what I mean when I say body text? I mean the paragraphs, the actual information, the stuff people have to read. Make the headings noticeably larger than the body text. And this is an issue it's sort of a hierarchy issue. You know, you want your content to have good hierarchy. You want people to be able to say, this is the organizing principle. The heading is what this chunk of stuff under it is about. And then under that, you can use subheadings. These are your H1, H2, H3, all this stuff and it matters for SEO, and it matters for a lot of other reasons too. But pure user friendliness, pure usability, make sure that it's obvious what is a heading. Because your users are going to scan that page, and they're going to look for what's big and in a different font first, so that they know that's the area where the information that they're seeking is. And the last one is keep the case consistent. I'm talking about upper and lower case. Don't be all caps in one place and upper lower in another place with your headings. If you're being, artsy and you want all lowercase, that's cool too, but establish that as kind of a design principle throughout your website and make sure that they're all that way. There is...
Add to that, tags, it drives me crazy when people have upper, lowercase tags. People should go through the tag libraries and either uppercase them or lowercase them.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great concept. He's talking about tags. When you tag your content, just be sure that you keep that case consistent as well. Everything you do, as people look through your content and look at your tags and all of this stuff, they're going to sort of fall into a comfort zone of, all right, it's upper lowercase, it's upper lowercase. If something is all caps, they might feel shouted at. If something is just different for some other weird reason because you just didn't feel like capitalizing that first letter of that word, they're going to wonder why. Don't make them think. Everything you do that makes people go, well, that's weird. What is that about? Now you've slowed them down again. Don't make them think. Keep your case consistent. Yeah?
Since it's not sure the front end people looking at it, but when you're working with a client, how do you, as good as this is, how do you balance this with like a client that says, oh, 2 fonts. I want Old English is one of them when you're going to...
And Comic Sans is the other.
How do you steer them away from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what? I want an opportunity for Alex to be able to answer your question as well. So we're going to do questions at the very end. But that's a great one. I definitely want to talk about that because this is an issue. Is that you may tell your client, trust me, this is really what your users are going to want. But their personal preference is going to get all mixed in, and you're going to have to deal with that. So. These are our typography tweaks. So how do you find fonts? Oh my gosh, there's so many. To start with, find one that works well with your logo. This is like a really good place to start because if you have you have your logo and then you have other text, it would be amazing and it would make you look like really more like a printed, brochure or something like that if your fonts can work well with your logo. Usually you just get a logo and you have no clue what the font is. So there's a website called What the Font, and you can upload your logo to it. It doesn't always work, but it will get you close enough usually, and it will identify what the fonts are in your logo. You can find fonts that go well together by going to fontpair.co, and it's got categories like I want serif and sans serif, monospace and serif or whatever, but it will come up with all of these font pairings, and these are all Google fonts. Or you could just write your whole day off and browse the Google font library. Because it's the most wonderful, warm rabbit hole ever. There's so much in there. So last night I checked, there were 877 font families that you can easily use on your website, no download required. So here's the thing, Google Fonts. Who has worked with Google Fonts? Yay! Who has no clue what I mean when I say Google Fonts? Great, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to point at you. I was like, you're my favorite. I know, because I get to teach this to you. So a lot of times when you build a website, and especially when you get like a theme like a template or whatever. And we're not dealing so much with like custom websites here, but let's just say that you created a website and out of the box it's Arial. Great, it's fine. Arial's nice, Times New Roman is nice, whatever is there is nice. However, what Google did is they took 877 fonts and they kind of put them on their server, and then they put little code things in there so you can point to them on Google's server and display them on your own website. So with a little chunk of code, you can have access to any of these fonts. The instructions are actually pretty good on there to teach you how to do it. So I apologize for taking all of your time but you're going to go to here and I'm telling you, you're going to love it. So if you go to fonts.google.com, you can find fonts, you can type in your stuff and see what your stuff would look like in that font, all of that. And then it will give you implementations. The best news is that a lot of theme frameworks and templates now bake Google Fonts into them. So you can go to theme options, like our How to Watch Paint Dry website was built in X. Familiar with X? X is a theme framework. And it's like Divi, Aveda, X, a lot of these things. When you go into theme options, it'll give you a chance to choose like what the font is that you want to use for your headings. Take that extra step and go into the theme options and find that little drop down, because 9 times out of 10 it's also going to include Google Fonts. So you can go over to the Google website and say, I want to use Josephine Sands, and then you can go back over, and instead of having to even know how to implement it, with code, you can just pick Josephine Sands. The website's brain will go out to Google, display it on your website. It's beautiful. Your world has changed. All right. So,
One thing I just want to mention, I'm going through this right now with a client, is that they have print branding and web branding.
Right.
So, but the good thing about Google Fonts is you can use them in both print and web.
That's right, and you can download the Google Fonts to your computer to use for print assets as well. And they're pretty good. Also, if it goes the other way around, they're also pretty good about having just about every font covered. If it's not exactly the same, you can, it's similar enough. But yeah, that's a great point. So here we have How to Watch Paint Dry. We have our teeny tiny little nav at the top. We've got our tools and equipment, proper procedure, what to wear, get the guide, all this stuff. So let's apply our typography rules to this to end up with this. All we did was change the type. Now we've made the nav bigger, much more obvious. We've actually, that old website was all Arial. Now we have 2, I can't remember exactly what these fonts are, but I got them off the font pairing website. So now we have our headings in this nice serifed font that works well with our enormous logo. We have kind of a cool, a little more curvy text font for our body text, and it applied. I picked it from the drop down. That's all I did, and it applied all over the whole website. So now, bigger, upper and lower case, consistent, all that stuff I said before. So just to review, we have taken this website, and with just these 3 tweaks, by adding a strong color, by focusing on the call to action, making it nice and big, and by changing the font, we've transformed this into this. I'm not saying that people are going to become more interested in watching paint dry. What I am saying is that the people who are interested in watching paint dry are going to be much less frustrated, because they're going to get to your website and they're actually going to know what to do. Ideally, they're going to download this ebook, and you're going to get a bonus from your boss. By the way, this website is actually live at howtowatchpaintdry.com. So if you want to see these principles in practice, you can. You can for real go to howtowatchpaintdry.com. The inside pages, by the way, have lorem ipsum, but they're Bob Ross lorem ipsum. It is the happiest, friendliest little thing ever. So it's all quotes from Bob Ross's shows.
Is there actually an ebook?
Well, there is an ebook. It's not about how to watch paint dry, but you'll see. No, actually, if you click on the download an ebook, it just goes to one of our white papers about best practices for launching a website. So it's not that. All right, so that's it. That's me. You can yes.
My colleague and I were just outside
Yes.
watching paint dry
Yes.
on the wall outside, and we were so inspired by your calls to action that we actually did go.
Fantastic. Free donuts.
Want me to share, so we're going to bring these down right now.
Great. So this is, I know, yeah. I know, exactly. So now I'm somehow going to try to get. So this is Paul. Paul's our storyteller and our writer editor. Always good for a story. I will mention, if you would like to get in touch with us, you can see the call to action in the top of our website, or if you go to How to Watch Paint Dry and you click contact there, you'll get in touch with us as well. All right. So, questions. Alex is doing donuts, but we're gonna definitely talk. These, by the way, they may not be hot, but they're only like an hour and a half old, so they should be pretty good. I didn't bring napkins, so you just got to do this. Nobody's complaining. Good. Gave you a free sugar rush. All right, 2 questions in the front. Yes.
Black backgrounds and white text.
Yeah. So his question is about black backgrounds and white text. It's so funny because we go back and forth about this. The science, we did a website for a company that makes binocular eyeglasses for people who can't see and they need that help. And we worked with the Federation for the Blind. So it's a website that's super high contrast, all of that kind of thing. So what the Federation for the Blind told us is that white text on a black background is good. Once you put that out to actual users who don't have that particular, who aren't that particular user case, it can be tiring. In fact, thanks to Claudia, we made a change on our website recently because we were putting white text on a dark background and it was just wearing people out. I think it's much easier now, so thank you to Claudia for that. Yes, second question.
Color wheels.
Color wheels. My
So
head just
these-
exploded.
Yeah, my core competency is information architecture, digital strategy.
Yep.
And I try to get into design,
Mhm,
sometimes, but I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to these tools that you mentioned, and the color wheel and Adobe, and I pick I put in an RGB color value, and I get some things back. But then I'm not the person who should be making those choices, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Or I pick it, and I don't know, they might give me 4 colors,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm not a designer, so
Yeah.
I don't think every day about color.
Right.
And I'm like, well, do I make that the footer color? Do I make
Yeah.
this? Like, what can you say? I know it's subjective. There's not really any rules around it, right? But what can you say to somebody like me who hits a color wheel? How should I use it?
Yeah.
How should I use a color wheel, and how should I apply it?
Right. Color wheels can be really overwhelming. That's why I recommend those first 2 tools. That if they've given you a color and they've said we have to have this color in our website, but we don't care about the others, go to Coolers and you'll just find something. Also, nature tends to be a brilliant palette artist. So a lot of times you can take a photo from nature that includes that color and use that palette generator tool, and it will come up with just colors that just go together magically. The discussion about how and where to use color on your website is a big one, obviously. Alex, would you, I mean, just in general, your brightest color should be your call to action.
I usually define not necessarily the brightest one, but just like you were talking about, like having the colors that replicate your logo is fundamental. If you have different colors, even if it's by a little bit, it's going to look a little bit off, and so it looks less finished. But you start with that by replicating the colors that you have in your logo already. That's a great start. We could talk
Forever, yeah. Yeah, color is subjective. However, there are rules. You know, you want to care kind of where the eye lands first. Bonus points if all of the photography and the imagery on your website also reflects those colors. You can get crazy and go into Photoshop and all that stuff, but you don't have to do that. When in doubt, keep it simple. Just keep it simple.
You know, you've got your header color, your footer color. Now you've got your link color. Then you've got your rollover color for your link. Then you've got your background, your rollover color for your buttons, and your primary color for your buttons. Then you got your font color for your rollovers. So it becomes more than just choosing two colors.
It does, and again, try not to get overwhelmed. For your hover color, you can just use a lighter version, or a more transparent version of what the regular color is.
Right.
So.
So don't choose a different color.
Don't choose it. You don't need to do that. It just needs to do something different.
Just 20% opaque. And
Perfect. Perfect. So that when somebody hovers over it,
So
it
you're letting me off
does
that.
something.
You're letting me off that.
Letting you off the hook. Yeah, totally. Don't overcomplicate it. Yes.
So you had talked a little bit about calls of action, and I'm wondering, what's your opinion on calls of action that kind of like pop out of nowhere?
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen them, they pop out when they weren't there before, compared to a call of action like what's on the example website, where it's just there
Mm-hmm.
from the start.
Are you talking about like popovers and overlays and?
Yeah, I'm talking about, where it's not just at the bottom, but it's at the bottom when you get to the bottom.
It goes.
Like a PowerPoint.
Yeah. So the data says popovers, those things when you go to a website and you're like, oh, I'm at this and this huge thing shows up and says sign up for our whatever. People hate that stuff. We still get people who want to put them on there, but they knock you out of your they knock you off track. They knock the user off track. They're annoying. I don't know anyone who likes them. Other than clients, because they just think it's cool that you can open up something and something will pop up. For something like that, like a notification bar up top, WP front notification bar. I mean, there are a billion plugins that do this kind of thing. That's better for that kind of information. The little slide-in corner things, those actually convert pretty well. There's a plugin called Bloom, which I think is made by Elegant Themes, and they do a really good job with these calls to action, these kind of slidey-in panels and stuff. Take a look at that, and you can trigger it that once you get 60% of the way, do something. You can even make some of these smart enough so that like if somebody's about to click off the page, hey, wait, can I help? That's why they put chat boxes down there. Those tend to be pretty effective. Okay. Yeah, sure. I get Paul and then.
Don't forget to return to the gentleman's question.
Absolutely, thank you.
What if you have a page that doesn't have a huge call to action? You're actually trying to relay a lot of information, and I'm wondering if there's some way you can organize a lot of information into bite-sized pieces,
Oh.
or draw attention to the difference between the sections.
I love that you asked that, because like the 2-hour version of this talk, which it was like a few days ago, you can use color to organize by category. We did a website for the very sexy Pollution Liability Insurance Agency of the state of Washington. And one of their biggest problems was they have all of these forms. So what they do is if there's an underground storage tank and it leaks, it wrecks the water supply. So what they do is they provide help to people so that they can maintain them properly. They provide insurance, cleanup resources, all of that stuff. They also do stuff with wastewater, and they have all these things. So their old website before they brought us on had all of this information. So what we did is we made all the underground storage tank pages have a big green banner. All of the petroleum had a big blue banner. And then I forget what the third one was, but it had yellow. I think homeowners stuff. So, and then on the home page, we made 3 blocks so that people could self-identify. And then as they make their journey through the site, every page related to that topic has that color very prominently.
And maybe a photo with those colors.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so do you want to restate your question for these folks?
The client wants something, you know it's not gonna work. How do you balance what you know versus the client's always right?
Yeah, so we use a style tile process when we design, and you know what we do is we try to get a lot of data and a lot of information, get the client's own words, and then translate the stuff that they've said into sort of design languages. And you know, you can have a really muted palette that you might offer, a really bright palette that you might offer. And then as you can help winnow the client and funnel them into making a choice, and then just keep reinforcing all the time, this is a big issue, something we always have to do. Just keep reinforcing, all right, when you're looking at this, never say, what do you think? You know, so what do you think? Because then they feel like they also feel like they have to say something wrong, you know. Try to keep your review team very small, you know, and help them understand that the website's not for them, it's for their audience. So do your research, figure out about color emotion. If you can come armed with data and really good reasons why, then you can absolutely say to your clients, you know what, I love that, you know, when you were in 7th grade, you had a aqua t-shirt that, you know, you loved, but maybe we don't want to make your entire website aqua, because that might resonate with you, but it doesn't necessarily resonate with your users. Here's what we know resonates with people between the ages of 50 and 55, you know, whatever, that kind of thing. So the more research and discovery and all of that you can provide, that conversation gets a lot easier. And then just keep saying, I know, but that sounds like personal preference. Be careful, is that response your preference? And you know, and pretty much every time they'll go, you know, that's true. That is really just me. And then you'll start to hear in the meetings, you know, it might just be me, but so yeah, just know why you did everything that you did. Does that help?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
I read in a study a long time ago that for body copy, sans serif type is preferred, and for screen and for print it should be serif. What's the modern thinking on that?
Yeah, it's about the same. I mean, I read the same research. There was also some research to indicate that now that monitors are so much better, we can actually have more of a print-like experience on the web. So I've seen some really beautiful websites that use serif fonts. So when we're talking about serif fonts, we mean the ones that have the little serifs, little sticky out things on them. And sans serif fonts don't have that, they're more rounded. So newspapers, magazines, all that stuff, they use serif fonts, and it has been long established that body copy on the web should be sans serif. You know, I would say if you are going to use a serif font, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, you want to be sure that the line spacing is high enough. You know, one problem that a lot of websites run into, especially with dense copy, is choose whatever font you want, but then the lines are too squished together, so the eye can't kind of, you know, deal. So 1.6M, I think, is what we usually start with. 160 times the, anyway. But just make sure that it's spread out far enough, and make sure you don't have too many or too few words on a line. That can, like, that we can geek out on that all day, in terms of how many words should there be on a line. Well, now I'm on a phone. Now I'm on, you know, all of this. But the serif versus sans serif thing, I think the traditional knowledge still applies, but I can't say that I haven't seen it applied successfully otherwise.
The New York Times.
Yeah, New York Times.
It's all serif.
Yeah,
Whether
New
it's
York
the
Times
body
is all
copy,
serif. And that's part of their brand too. You know, sometimes your brand might be, we're the New York Times. We're serif. Deal with it.
But you can see in the leading and the kerning.
Yeah, but they're able to adjust that so that it works well.
You know, I've also read that the older generations prefer serif and the younger generations prefer sans serif.
I've read that too.
Your target.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And again, you know, typography is another one of those things like color. There's a lot of emotion attached to typography. You know, you see something nice in slab. That's why you see it on a lot of, you see slab on a lot of lawyers' websites. You know, things that are for, you know, preschools or that kind of thing are a little more rounded. So consider the emotion when you're choosing typography as well, because things feel different. You know, we try to keep stuff rounded because our whole vibe is friendly, but you might want to be a little more New York Timesy and a little snootier, and if you want to do that, then you can absolutely go with a serif font for everything. Looks very classy. Anybody else?
The other thing on, you know, when I'm reading large blocks of body and stuff, I actually have an easier time with justification, but I'm reading that's not a good thing out there.
Boy, trends. Trends. You know, they say when in doubt, left justify. So we don't follow it on our site. I think we right justified some stuff. We got all crazy, but yeah, I think when in doubt, left justify. You know, centering is the thing you probably want to most avoid, just because centering on because you can't control it. You know, and because we're all in responsive design, right? That's gonna get a little weird looking. You know. So yeah, it's when in doubt, left justify. Yes?
Do you have any comments regarding the usage of premium fonts versus free fonts Google provides? Do you have clients to actually purchase premium stuff?
We do, you know, so his question is about the use of premium fonts versus the free fonts. The only times, we're always going to go with Google fonts when we can. You know, for one thing, you avoid, sometimes you'll go to a website and you'll go, well, why is this all in Arial? This looks terrible. And the designer will say, wait a minute, why does I've done this other thing. Well, that's because they were calling fonts that were installed locally on their computer. So you want web-served fonts whenever you can. So that's why Google Fonts is great, because it's free and you can get amazing fonts. However, there are cases where NC State is an example, or used to be, where, you know, any web assets that you make for them, you have to use their font, which is an Adobe font, right?
I don't know, it's Universe.
Universe. So,
Universe and Glypha as our primary and secondary respectively.
well, thank you.
And only some people can get licenses on campus.
That's right. So NC State is a perfect example. You have to use Universe on the website. Now, most of the websites here are being built in-house now.
They are, and
yeah.
WordPress, and so it's all in our theming.
Right.
I've never looked at a font setting ever.
Right.
What are you gonna do? 'Cause it's all there.
Yeah, so I had worked in one of the departments here when that transition was first being made, and that was one of the biggest things. It was like, we don't have Universe. We're going to have to go buy it. If you have to buy it because of something like of a branding issue, which is all it usually ever is, then yeah, and the client pays for it, and you install it, and whatever. And you can use the Adobe, what's it called, Alex, when you, font library. Typekit, thank you. Such a better word than font library. Yes, Typekit. You can use Adobe Typekit to serve those as well. Now there are plugins that will kind of do it, you know, but great. Just go ahead and buy the font. They're not super expensive. Yes. Somebody over here? No?
I was just going to say,
Somebody
in
moved?
regards to that, you know, then you got to worry about the yearly, it's a yearly license.
You do, yeah. No, there's a commitment. Yeah, there's a commitment. They, you know, they don't give that stuff away for free. And sometimes if you have to buy the whole library, yeah, you're in for $1,000. How important is it to you, client, to have exactly that font when I can give you this font for free?
Right. And the font could go away.
And the font could go away.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else have burning questions about user-friendly design tweaks? Yes?
What about the size of, like the body text and stuff? I know I was reading recently that you know, people want to see it a little bit bigger, like
16
16
pics.
pixels is the old 12 pixels.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So is that what size you think 16 is?
We start with 16. Yeah,
The body?
we start with 16 for the body, and then you can adjust from there. You know, you can do your headings. You can scale up from there, but 16 pics is a good place to start. And yeah, it used to be 12, but people weren't looking on phones.
And I would say, I mean, I'm giving the SEO talk after at 2 o'clock, but in my SEO, there's also people who write titles, and titles should be 90 characters or less. So then you got to pick a font
That looks good.
that looks good at 90 characters.
Yeah.
And some people overwrite. I have a client who overwrites 3, 4, 5 lines of a title of a post.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got that. You've got
So go see his talk at 2, and you'll learn.
Yeah, you got to educate people.
Yeah.
Not only the font, but the size of the font is a
Right. Yeah. And in general, you know, the whole thing is don't let this stuff worry you. You know, make some choice. Some choice is better than that first website we saw. just adding the color made a big difference. Just changing the font made a big difference. You know, these are small tweaks. Not a single change was made to the content of this website, to anything. I literally went into the theme options and said, use large for the button size. Use the orange. Another thing I did that I didn't mention is sometimes you'll get an option for a 3D button. So this has a little 3D effect on it. Google's material design, a lot of people use, you know, and it was because it looks like literal pieces of paper on a desk. So the more you can help people, we don't do shiny buttons anymore, although I'm dying for that to come back. But they used to be, yeah, they used to be really shiny. It's okay to put a little cool effect, like a little hover, a little, you know, a little micro interaction is what they call them. But if you can don't make people think. That's really it. I could have just said that. Yeah.
Talk about buttons. I saw it, and I was going to say I read a post, but I didn't actually read it. It popped up in my email about ghost buttons.
Ghost buttons. Yeah. That's a really good question. So ghost buttons. I don't know. I haven't checked the trend on that lately, but this is what we're talking about when he says ghost buttons. So ghost buttons only have an outline, and then they have something in them. Now, we did kind of train web users, savvy web users, that if you see something like that, it might be a button. So hover over it and see what it does. If you do have a ghost button, just be sure that it fills in or does something. I'm not seeing these as much anymore, though. You know, I think we may be getting a little away from them.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know, a few months ago, it was like, don't ever use a ghost button. It's the worst thing in the world. And then the thing that I
You have it to look forward to.
They're sort of hanging on for dear life, but
They
they're not
are.
going away, and they're sort of
I know.
popularity.
Yeah, I can't honestly think of a good UX reason for a ghost button. I don't know. Can you? Who likes ghost buttons? Oh, all right.
Do you have any ideas or strategies for caching fonts with Google? If I got a lot of tabs open up a website, a lot of times they'll just hang waiting for fonts API to take in.
I know.
Download the fonts. Any ideas on being able to cache that? Will it be on the server?
Yeah, because you're querying Google.
Yeah.
Google doesn't tend to be slow, but there are, Alex, what would you, I mean,
I believe they're cached by default at the browser level.
Yeah.
Not at the server level, but if you're, and that's one of the reasons why you would suggest using two. If you're visiting different websites and certain websites have those fonts already, they're going to be loaded on your browser. So when you visit a third website that has that font, it doesn't have to load from the server, so it's a little faster.
yeah. And one thing I would say too is since they're scripts, they're essentially scripts, you're calling that. If you're finding that your website's hanging, it might not be just the font that's causing that. It could be that there's another script that's taking its resources. Sometimes we'll find that as well. But the font, Google font should be cached.
I'm one of these people that has like 20 different tabs open.
Me too, on 2 computers. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talking about having a ghost button.
Yeah.
In situations when I have to compromise with the client and they want to have 2 calls to actions that are happening on the hero section of the slide or whatever, potentially the more important calls to action I'll have to be a button, and then the ghost button is the secondary.
Yeah, that's a great use for a ghost button. Did everybody hear what she said? So say you open up your website and you have your big hero and you've got 2 calls to action, but one of them is like the really important one. Look here. Do this too if you want to, but but look here. That's a great use for a ghost button because you're still satisfying the call to action, but you're giving it less prominence. And you're telling the user, this is less important. We really want you to do this. Pay attention to this first. Anybody else? Did you like your donuts? Yes. Yay. Thank you. Thanks so much.